This week, I'm going to tell you about the top 5 places to learn web development 100% for free. Are you ready? Let's go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Self-Made Web Designer Podcast. It's so good to have you here back again with another great episode. You know, people often reach out to me and say, Chris, I want to become a web developer. I want to become a web designer. I just don't know where to get started. So I thought, why not create an episode where I show you the best places to get started. You know, there's a lot of information out there on the internet. So much so, in fact, it can almost become paralyzing. If you want to learn how to become an esthetician, I'm sure there's a YouTube channel for that. If you want to learn string theory, I'm sure there are blogs dedicated to that. If you want to know if the mole on your back looks a little concerning, I'm sure that you can find some pictures and search through WebMD enough to kind of give you a panic attack and go to the ER. But, you know, suffice it to say, you're probably okay, all right? Don't get freaked out and start Googling your symptoms. That is a rabbit hole that you do not want to go down. And the same is true for learning web development. There's so much data, there's so much information out there that it's tough to know what's the right stuff to look at, what's worth my time, and what is not worth my time. So I'm going through it. I took a deep dive into some of the more popular ones and some of the courses or platforms that maybe you haven't heard of. And I categorized the 5 best for you to pick from and learn. Even if you've been going at this for a long time, there's a lot of good free courses out there to garner some new skills or even get caught up on some of the stuff that you learned a long time ago, but you need a quick refresher. So whether or not you're new to the area or if you are someone who's been doing this for a long time, this episode is going to be a good one for you. But before we get started, I want to tell you about something new that we are doing for the Self-Made Web Designer Podcast. I want to encourage you to leave a comment and a rating on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast. And if you do, take a screenshot of your comment, shoot me an email, and I will send you a free hologram self-made web designer sticker for you to put wherever you would want to. You can put them on your thermoses. I've got one on my Hydro Flask here. You can put it on a t-shirt. You can turn it into a tattoo. I don't know that I would suggest that, but if you want to, please video it and send it to me because you're next level and I want to be a really close friend with you. So do that for me and I will send you a free self-made web designer hologram sticker. It's a lot of fun and it makes pretty little light up thingies when you flash it in the sun or in a light. If you're on YouTube, you're seeing me kind of make this go back and forth and kind of make it go shiny. It's great. Okay, so without further ado, are you ready to dive into the top 5 places to learn web development absolutely for free? Okay, let's go. So before we dive into the top 5 places to learn web development for free, let's talk a little bit about how I rated these programs so you can kind of know my thinking, know the backstory of why I chose one over the other or ranked them in the order that I did. The first thing that I was looking for was the interaction, how you learned through experience from the course or from the program. And suffice it to say, you're probably keen to the idea that you're not going to learn web development by watching somebody else do web development, right? Just like you're not going to learn how to play guitar by watching a whole bunch of Eddie Van Halen concerts. God rest his soul. He's a great guitar player. He's no longer with us. But that's kind of silly to think that you're going to figure something out just by watching somebody else do it. And the same is true for web development. You've actually got to get in there. You've got to put your fingers to the keyboard and you've got to code in order to figure it out. That's all a part of the learning process. So I was looking for courses or platforms that had that intrinsically in how they taught you, and I gave them a higher rating based on how they were doing that. Number 2, community and support. Another key component to a really good free web development course is having access to a community that can help you when you get stuck. Okay, listen, let's have some real talk. Come in close. Are you ready? You're going to get stuck when you're trying to learn web development. It's actually a good and important part of your learning process. And you can't allow your frustration of getting stuck to keep you from going the distance, from going all the way. But when you do get stuck, it's important to know that you've got a community of people that can help you climb out of the proverbial woods and understand things better. So I gave a higher rating to platforms or courses that had a good community interaction, a good community and support system for you to learn. And finally, I was looking for the ability for you to keep growing and keep learning within the platform for free. Hopefully, you'll be so enthralled by learning web development for free that you say to yourself, man, I've got to keep going and I've got to keep learning more. I know that's what happened with me, and it's a lot of fun to do that. And so if a platform didn't have a lot of opportunity to learn past a certain skill set or learn past the foundations, it didn't get rated as high as other platforms. In other words, I was looking for places that had a lot of material for you to go deeper and deeper, for better or worse, in your knowledge of web development. So those were the 3 main things that I was looking for. That being said, here is my top 5 list in order from the best to slightly not the best. There's probably a word for that. None of these platforms are bad. Here's the best one. I'll just start. Okay. Number 1 is Free Code Camp. Free Code Camp is a platform that was started by a guy named Quincy Larson in 2014. Quincy was actually a school director who taught himself how to code after he graduated college in order to help schools run more efficiently. And after he came out of his learning process, he thought to himself, man, this was unnecessarily burdensome. This was a lot of work to figure out how to learn web development. And so he pledged himself to helping other people not have as difficult of a time as he did. And that's why he started Free Code Camp, and he has been doing it ever since. Free Code Camp is a small nonprofit team, and just like the name, it is 100% for free. Everything you find at Free Code Camp, you're not going to have to pay a dime for it. At Free Code Camp, you can learn everything from responsive web design to JavaScript algorithms. They even teach you a little bit of coding interview prep. So they're not just trying to teach you the basics and the fundamentals. They're trying to actually give you some skills so that you can go on and have a career as a web developer. And the platform itself is actually really cool. You learn in the custom environment that they have created. And essentially what happens is when you sign up for a path or for a curriculum, you get plugged into these modules, and each modules has 3 columns. The column on the left is a column where you're reading and you're learning about whatever it is that you signed up for. So let's say you're learning the foundations. Let's say you're learning HTML and CSS. The column on the very far left will be teaching you all about HTML and CSS. At the end of that first column is a little task. It's a little assignment for you to try out the thing you just learned. So then the middle column is where you try that thing out. They'll tell you type a header or type a paragraph or add an attribute to this HTML element or whatever. And so you type that into the middle column, and then the very far right column, the third column, is where you see the preview of what you just coded. What happens is after you've done your coding, you click a button to see if what you did was correct. It runs a test and it tells you whether or not you got it right or if you need to keep on working on figuring it out. When you get it right, a little success screen pops up and says, ding, 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 you are allowed to move on. And you keep doing that through the entire curriculum, through the entire path that you signed up for. I love Free Code Camp, and it's number one because it's 100% for free and because I love the learning module that they have created and that helps you to learn web development. But there are some downfalls. First of all, you're going to be hit up for money pretty frequently. After all, this is a nonprofit organization and they need money to keep going. So about every 10 minutes, a little window is going to pop up and it's going to ask you if you'd like to donate. And listen, I don't blame them. These guys have to put food on their tables and they also have to try to keep this thing going. And this has become popular enough that a lot of people are using it. And that takes money to keep going. And so I get it, but it is a little bit annoying. Another thing that's really tough about Free Code Camp is the website itself is a little bit tough to navigate through. There's not a real clear path for you to choose which curriculum is right for you. There's not a really clear definition of each of the paths that you're able to choose from. And so if you're brand new and you don't know what you're doing and you're just coming to learn, you're going to have to do a little bit of your own education to know which path is right for you. Thankfully, once you know that, it's pretty easy to dive in and to keep going. And again, it's 100% for free, so take it or leave it. If you're just starting out, my suggestion would be to go with their Start at the Beginning link that is right there at the beginning of their curriculum. It'll take you through the foundations and it's a great path to go through. I did a little bit of the responsive web design certification and it's a great course. It teaches you a lot of the basics and it'll be a good foundation for you to get started. There's even a group of people who are Free Code Camp alumni where they share their success stories about how they used Free Code Camp to build their career as a web developer. It's very encouraging, and I encourage you to check it out. The next platform that's a great place to learn web development for free is a platform called Scrimba. Scrimba is a fairly new coding education platform that's based out of Norway. And they've got a really small team of 6 people that are keeping this thing running, but it's pretty awesome. The classes focus primarily on front-end development. So you've got a lot of JavaScript, you've got a lot of HTML and CSS. And a lot of their courses are more project-based than they are subject-based. So rather than courses being on, say, learn JavaScript, it's build a Instagram clone with JavaScript. So it's that kind of education. And that might be more motivating for some of you who are listening. And this is a freemium model, meaning that there are a lot of classes that are 100% for free, but then there are a lot of classes that you're going to have to pay for. And listen, I don't blame them for that. I think it's a great model for business. I've learned a lot from freemium type platforms, and there is plenty of free courses for you to learn a lot of stuff. You're not going to get bored going through all of their free stuff. There's 2 really cool things about Scrimba that I love. Number one is their system for learning. So they have their own proprietary environment where you log into a classroom essentially and you watch a video, and the video is actually integrated into the text editor where you're going to be coding and practicing as well. So you watch a video, and as soon as you start typing in your text editor, the video actually pauses and waits for you to practice whatever you are working on. And when you're finished or when you've completed a task, you can hit play and keep watching whatever lesson you're watching. On the video timeline, there's actually a place for you to take notes and keep track of what you are learning, which is a really cool and efficient way to learn these really complicated ideas so that you can go back, you can look at things that maybe you thought you understood completely, but you need a little bit more help learning in the long run. Each of the classes are taught by a mixture of teachers. Some of them are from Scrimba itself, and some of them are other teachers who are just folks who like creating courses and like teaching people about web development. So there's a lot of variety there. There's even a free code camp lesson in the mix for you to learn from, of all things. Here's where Scrimba really knocks it out of the park. They have a fantastic community and support system for you to learn. It's all on a Discord, and you'll find tons of different things for you to interact with on their Discord. They have weekly webinars, they have weekly web dev challenges for you to keep up to speed on the things that you're doing and have other people go alongside with you. They've really shined at building a community to encourage people to learn web development. So I highly encourage you to check this out. I've personally taken the React course by a guy named Bob Zirol. I hope I said his name right. And it's a great one if you're trying to learn React. But if you're just getting started, HTML and CSS Crash Course is another good one to start with. Number 3, Codecademy. Codecademy is like the OG for me. And if you have gone through my web design starter kit course, you will know that's where I first started learning web development. And so it has a very special place in my heart. The setup is really similar to Free Code Camp. You pick a course, you pick a path. They've got 3 columns in their modules in the environment that they've built. One column is to teach you, the other column is for you to practice, and the third column is where you see the result of what you are practicing. And just like Free Code Camp, you can't keep progressing in the system until you get the task that they've given you correct. So you're not just going to be able to listen to someone or read something and keep going without actually having a little bit better understanding of what it is that you're learning. There's a forum for you to ask questions. There are live events, and there's even some local chapters in bigger cities around the US and around the world. But here's where Codecademy really shines, and this is what I love the most about it. The design and usability of Codecademy is the best that I have seen. And so it's a lot of fun. They've got a lot of cool design elements and graphics, which for a guy like me who's creative and likes seeing pretty things, it actually helps me to keep going. But here's where it goes south. Most of the content on Codecademy can't actually be accessed unless you are a premium member. In other words, you gotta pay to play. And don't get me wrong, there is plenty here for you to learn for free. But if you want access to the majority of the content or even access to different projects and quizzes within the free content, you're gonna have to pony up and pay some bucks. The pricing isn't horrible, and I might even argue that it's actually very worth what you're going to pay for what you're going to get. But hey, this isn't a podcast about the best places to learn web development where you've got to pay something, okay? This is a podcast where we're talking about learning web development for free. So that's the big drawback. It's not a huge deal, but if that's super important to you, this might not be the platform for you. Number 4, Udacity, or is it Udacity? You know what? Let's call it Udacity. And I know what you're thinking. You've probably seen ads for Udacity and you're thinking, aren't all of these programs paid for? And you would almost be right. There is a lot of content on Udacity that you've got to pay for, but there is a lot, I'm talking about a lot of free stuff for you to learn from. All you've got to do is sign up for an account with them, log in, and hit the catalog button on your dashboard. There, you'll see a list of classes and a place for you to filter them. You can filter out all of the paid classes and see just the free stuff. And from there, you can pick which category you want to learn from the free classes. There's all sorts of things from front-end development to back-end development. There's even Google Analytics. There is conversion rate optimization. There is a ton of content for you to consume on here. The classroom is a mixture of some text, some video, and a little bit of an embedded text editor for you to practice your code on. But you're going to do most of your practicing on your own text editor. So if you're looking for an environment where you can just start learning and code right within it, this is not going to be for you. You're going to have to download some free text editor like Visual Studio or Atom and learn how to do that on your own. It's not a big deal, and you're actually going to have to learn how to do it yourself anyways, eventually. But if that deters you, this might not be the place for you. All in all, Udacity is a great place to learn. They've got a lot of good teachers and a lot of good content that you will not get bored with. Finally, number 5, the 5th place to learn web development for free online is the Odin Project. And a lot of Thor fans out there are jumping to your feet and you're cheering right now because of the name of this website. Odin is actually a German mythological god. And if you've seen any of the Marvel movies that have come out in the past 5 years, you know that Thor is the son of Odin. And this entire website is themed around the German mythology of Odin. There are 3 paths to choose from in the Odin project. You've got your foundations, you've got full stack JavaScript, and you've got full stack Ruby on Rails. And the Odin project is quite a bit different from the other platforms that you could learn from in a lot of ways. Yes, it has a community on Discord for you to get support and help and ask questions and all of that stuff. And yes, it teaches you web development for free, but I think of this much like a corralling of a lot of different resources out there on the internet and put in one place for you to learn. So a lot of this content wasn't necessarily made up by the folks who run the Odin project. A lot of it was found on the internet and then brought into the Odin project for you to learn from. Within the courses, you'll have a lesson that you read, and then you'll have a task or assignment that you have to do to keep moving on. And you don't have to do them. You can actually keep going. This isn't like Code Academy or Free Code Camp where you've got to get it right to progress. You could keep going if you wanted to without actually learning this stuff. But they have an assignment where they give you additional learning, where you're watching videos or you're working on your own project. They even link out to a free Code Camp course for you to learn some of the stuff that they're trying to teach you. This is a really deep dive into web development. You're going to learn a lot of the foundations of even how the web works, how a browser functions, and even onto things like GitHub or the command line. And so there's a lot of really hardcore stuff that you're going to have to get through before you actually start doing things like web development in HTML and CSS and JavaScript or whatever it is that you are learning. And listen, hear me out. That's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it can be a good thing. If you go on to have a career in web design, you're going to have to learn this stuff anyways. In fact, after I got out from all the things that I learned from Code Academy, I had a little bit of a learning curve on things like file structure for a website, or how to use a text editor, or how to run a website locally on my computer without it being in some web hosting somewhere, even onto how to start up web hosting and how to get a website actually published on the internet. That took a lot of stuff and a lot of time for me to learn, and Code Academy hadn't taught me any of that stuff. So this is a good thing. But if you're looking for a platform where you're just going to jump right in and start to learn web development, this might be a little bit discouraging for you on the front end. So you got to kind of know yourself. You got to know what motivates you. If you're the kind of person who wants to know how an engine runs before you step foot inside a car and learn how to drive it, then the Odin Project is for you. This is the perfect place. And there's a lot of good information on here that people are contributing to and helping out with all the time. Here's one caveat to it. The Odin Project is run by a company called Thinkful. And I have actually talked about Thinkful in a blog post before. Thinkful is a bootcamp company that teaches people all sorts of things from product design to full stack development. They are a for-profit education company. So you kind of have to wonder, what is the motivation of a for-profit education platform or program running a free online education platform where they're teaching you how to learn web development? There might be some ulterior motives. I didn't see any when I was on there, but I want to warn you in case something happens in the future. Well, there you have it. There are the 5 best places to learn web development for free. Hopefully this helps you in making a decision on which platform to choose and either growing the skills that you already have or just getting started. But here's a little reality when it comes to which platform you pick. It doesn't necessarily matter. And I know I just spent a ton of time talking to you about all of the important aspects of a good online education platform for learning web development. But here's what I found in looking at each of these. There were people who successfully went through each of these programs and went on to have amazing careers as web developers. I've seen people spend way too much time evaluating which path they're going to take rather than just jumping in and going for something. A good friend of mine used to tell me all the time, an imperfect plan that is executed is better than a perfect plan that never got started. So here's the deal. No matter where you are, no matter where you're coming from, which platform you choose doesn't matter as much as you just going for it. It's all about you realizing that you have got this. You can learn this stuff. If I can learn this stuff in my late 30s, wherever you are and whoever you are, you can learn this stuff too. I guarantee it. And I am cheering you on the entire way. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Self-Made Web Designer podcast. I hope it helps you really understand how to get started on your journey as a web developer, as a web designer, or whatever it is that you're choosing to become. Next week, we've got another great episode. It's going to be fantastic. You're going to want to wait up for this one. I guarantee it. And don't forget, if you don't quit, you win.